Welcome to the Baby Let's Talk podcast. My name is Ragna and I am your host. I am a medical doctor, a certified pre-postnatal trainer and a mother of 4, and I help moms reclaim their health and reach their goals through the power of movement, nutrition and overall healthy lifestyle. This podcast is born from my dedication to uncovering the truths about nutrition, exercise and lifestyle that genuinely benefit our bodies. We'll explore how to establish a lasting, healthy lifestyle that fits the reality of motherhood, how to enjoy an active, pain-free pregnancy, and how to navigate postpartum recovery to regain your fitness in a wholesome way. Join me as we debunk myths and discover the paths to excess energy, body confidence, and loving the life you live as a mom. Hi, and welcome to episode 10 of the Baby Let's Talk podcast. This is part 2 of a 2-part series on weight loss. And in this episode, we're going to talk about how to lose weight without losing our health. And in this episode, we'll cover, firstly, a little bit on why body image plays a key role in our motivation for weight loss. We'll talk about the risks of normalizing obesity while maintaining respect for body positivity. We'll talk about how calorie restriction and yo-yo dieting damages our metabolism and makes weight loss harder, actually. And then we'll go over what is the key to sustainable weight loss in a step-to-step manner. So we'll go over step by step how to lose weight by supporting our health and not harming it. Now, before we get to it and talk about how to lose weight, I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room whenever weight loss is a topic, and that is body image. So, firstly, why do you really want to lose weight? And be honest, at least with yourself. Is it because of looks? And I bet it most probably is to some degree at least, but I'm not judging anyone. I'm not judging you at all. I'm like this as well. Or just think about it. Is it mainly because of looks, or is it because you want to be healthy? You want to be able to run around with your kids, jump on the trampoline with them, be able to go for a hike with a group of friends, be able to lift heavy things, be able to grow old and play with your grandkids, be able to help your kids take care of their kids, not have to develop chronic diseases, and basically have good life quality all the way to the end. And so for most of us, it's probably a little bit of both. But we need to talk about this, that social media has created quite a confusing landscape where we see two extremes regarding body image. We see fitness influencers with seemingly unattainable physiques, and then we see the body acceptance movement, which I applaud. I understand the goal of this movement, and I totally agree with the message that you should not let the appearance of your body define who you are and how you feel, and you're not a lesser human being for not being in good physical shape or being overweight or obese, not at all, or having some chronic health issues, etc. Not at all. But what I find concerning about this is that this movement has kind of normalized obesity and overweight to a disturbing degree. And this isn't about shaming anyone at all. Everyone deserves respect, no matter their body shape or size. However, we also need to be honest that normalizing obesity, or encouraging it even, is harmful. We cannot argue against that. And physiologically, excess body fat is linked to a wide range of chronic diseases like we talked about in our last episode, including type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, autoimmune diseases, joint issues, and so on. And that's a fact that we cannot ignore. So as much as I applaud all the positivity encouraged by the body acceptance movement, we still need to keep in mind that normalizing a physiological state that is known to be a risk factor for literally all chronic diseases is not good for anyone. You would never go on social media and promote cigarette smoking, for example. Now, regarding weight loss, just to keep it clear, the goal of weight loss or getting in shape shouldn't be to look a certain way or conform to a societal standard, even though that might be easier said than done to not think of that. Deep down, almost everyone wants to look good and at least feel good, and then each and every one of us may have different opinions about what looking good means, but you get the point here. So many people want to lose weight in order to look better. But when that's the driver, then most people do that through an unhealthy way of weight loss. That is with the calories in, calories out concept. And people may do that in different ways, but the bottom line is always the same. Either restricting our caloric intake significantly or increasing the amount of exercise to increase the calories out or calories used. So, or as in most cases, both. And yes, this does work, but only to a limited degree. Most of us have probably experienced this firsthand sometime, that we set ourselves a goal, maybe before the summer or before Christmas, to get in shape or to lose an X amount of kilograms or pounds. And then we get ourselves a diet plan with restricted caloric intake of maybe 1,800 or 1,600 calories per day. And then we exercise like crazy. And in 3 months, we have maybe lost quite some weight and we're starting to become quite happy with our results. And then we say, okay, now we're going to just slowly go back to living as normal, or just wake up one day and think, yeah, okay, today is the day I'm going to back to normal. And at least for some period of time until the new year or after summer, and then in a matter of a few weeks or months, we've gained the weight, if not all, but then most back on. And then we repeat this yo-yo dieting over and over again because we're never able to maintain the results we've attained. And we'll talk about this in more details in this episode, but for people who are athletes, for example, or normal people who eat healthy and train well because they want to perform in their sport, for example, or because they're so focused on their health and the health benefits of eating healthy and exercising, and simply want to be able to tackle everything in life. These are the people who are, for the most part, able to lose weight, get rid of the body fat, get fit, and stay fit. And they've most often maybe been fit their whole life. It's because that's the way they've lived their life. Because this is their lifestyle or becomes their lifestyle. So this becomes their way of living. So if you've ever experienced that, then you know what I mean. And individuals like this, they do not live this way only periodically, only just, in the spring before the summer or in the fall before Christmas, etc. So what I'm saying is that weight loss or getting in shape should be about health, about feeling energetic, getting rid of health issues that you may be struggling with, getting rid of some diseases, avoiding preventable diseases, and about thriving in your life. And it's okay to have the goal of losing weight and to wanting to look good, but the point of losing weight should be to become healthier and not simply to lose weight, no matter the cost or consequences. It should not be about the number on the scale or your fat percentage or the way your body looks, even though it's insanely rewarding to feel and see your body fat just reducing and some muscles toning out even. But that happens as a byproduct of getting healthy and not by starving ourselves through caloric restriction and over-exercising on cardio. This deprives our body of energy, deprives our cells of usable energy, drives us into a low energy state. And what happens when our body senses a low energy state? Yes, stress hormones go up to increase glucose availability in the bloodstream, because when the body senses a low energy state, a starvation state, when there's low available usable energy in the body, our body interprets that as low glucose availability and focuses on preserving and saving up and creating more glucose, because glucose is the most important energy source for all our cells for several reasons. And if you've listened to all my previous episodes, you may remember that we've talked about this a lot of times. But if you haven't, I suggest that you at least listen to my first episode and also the blood glucose episodes. So one of the reasons being that our brain is only able to use glucose as fuel for energy production and not fatty acids from fat. So the body interprets a low energy state as a lack of glucose. And it responds to that by increasing availability of glucose in our bloodstream to make sure that we have enough for our brain. And the way our body does that is through stress hormones, which slow down our metabolism to not burn up all the fuel that we have immediately, and disrupts hormone secretion and production, including thyroid hormones like we've talked about in the last episode, and also sex hormones like estrogen and testosterone. The stress hormones also make all the cells that are able to use other types of fuel for energy production, such as fatty acids, they make them use fatty acids as fuel instead of glucose in order to spare the glucose for the important tissues like the brain. So these tissues, these cells become more resistant to answer to insulin. They become more insulin resistant. The body reduces also the activity of certain physiological functions and organ systems to save up fuel. For example, it reduces brain functions. So we experience brain fog, fatigue, low mood, depression, anxiety, etc. And it also shuts the door on systems like reproductive system, for example, because we are not in a healthy physiological state to create another human being when we're not even able to take care of all our own body's physiological functions. And this is just like the put the oxygen mask on yourself first rule when we're flying. So our body does this to conserve as much fuel as it can. And it increases the glucose availability in the blood, both by making tissues like muscle tissue, fat tissue, etc. use fatty acids as fuel instead of glucose, and by producing more glucose endogenously in the liver, that is in our body, from other non-carbohydrate sources like amino acids from protein. So the cells that can use fatty acids as fuel are made more insulin resistant, so they respond less to insulin in order to reduce the amount of glucose that they take up from the bloodstream. So, like I've said, like the muscle cells, so they turn to fatty acids as fuel, and that makes them even more resistant to insulin, making you more glucose intolerant, basically. And many people have experienced this, that they struggle with carbs after a period of calorie deficiency, whether it's through calorie restriction or over-exercise. And also people who have been on keto diets, for example, they often struggle a lot with carbs when they go back, and I've experienced this myself. And it often makes people falsely think that they can't handle carbohydrates and that, oh, keto is the cure. I obviously do not tolerate carbs, and carbs are the devil. But that is in most cases not the case. And the reason is that you've made yourselves more and more insulin resistant by staying in the state. So when you introduce more carbohydrates to your diet, your cells don't answer to insulin, so they don't take up the glucose that you're coming in. So of course you can't handle it quite well. So your body is more glucose intolerant, but that's by your own doing. And we can see that when people who go on keto diets take a glucose tolerance test, they are in many cases glucose intolerant. And also in regards to endogenous glucose production, when we're in a low energy state because of, for example, calorie deficiency. And it kind of doesn't matter what essentially has driven our body to a low energy state, whether that's calorie deficiency, carbohydrate deficiency, fat deficiency for that matter, overload on toxins, overload on polyunsaturated fatty acid intake, sleep deprivation, micronutrient deficiencies, etc., etc. Our body ends up reacting to this the same way. All these things reduce or inhibit efficient energy production in our cells. And the way our body reacts to that is to increase the stress-driven state of energy conservation, which means the body is making sure that we have enough of available energy sources for the most important tissues to function and stay alive. So it makes the cells that are able to use fatty acids as fuel, to use something other than glucose, they make them insulin resistant. It shuts the door also to some specific physiologic functions like the reproductive system and higher cognitive functions, reduces high-level brain functions like concentration, mood, etc. It's breaking down muscle tissue to provide amino acids for producing more glucose endogenously in the liver by the body. It's also prioritizing using amino acids that are coming in with our diet for glucose production instead of repairing or building up muscle tissue, or instead of using these amino acids for the production of enzymes and hormones, for example. So our body prioritizes making glucose from these proteins. And what's also happening is that the body is storing more fat in our fat tissue. This factor here is so often forgotten or, overlooked, whether that's intentionally or not, I'm not sure. But when we're in a low energy state like this, the body is using a lot of fatty acids for energy production in cells that are able to use fatty acids, like muscle cells and fat cells, skin cells, etc. So it's burning a lot more fatty acids than before. So people automatically think that that must be very beneficial for fat burning, for reducing our body fat. But on the other hand, when fatty acids are used to an increased amount for energy production, because the body is sparing the glucose for the most important tissues like the brain, then our body goes like, oi, I need to make sure I don't run out of fatty acids, because if I run out of fatty acids, then these energy demanding cells that are running on fatty acid oxidation, then they will start using up the glucose that I'm distributing to the brain and saving up for the brain, and then I might run out of glucose fast and then I might die. So, okay, I need to make sure I keep my fat stores abundant. So I'll save everything I can in my fat stores. I'll slow down my metabolism. I'll keep a smaller fire in my fireplace so that my cells won't use up the fuel that I do have too quickly. And down the rabbit hole we go. So when we're in a state like this, our body uses more fatty acids for energy production, yes, but it also uses it more slowly. The metabolism goes down. We keep a smaller fire in our fireplace. And it also puts increased amounts of fuel to store it in our body fat. So this is a pro-fat storing state. Even though we're burning more fatty acids than we used to, using more amount of fatty acids as fuel, we're storing more and we're using it slower. So when we lose weight by calorie deficit, based on the calories in, calories out model, by, for example, restricting our calories and or over-exercising on cardio and neglecting, for example, strength training, if you do that, you simply become a smaller version of how you look now. And that's the bottom line. If you're a bit chubby now, and I hope no one gets offended by me using words as chubby or fat or overweight or obese, etc. We're all adults here and I don't mean any harm, so please don't come at me. But okay, so if you're a bit chubby and you go ahead and you restrict your calories and you start running because you're going to burn off all your extra body fat, and you maybe do some yoga as well and some sweat session, group sessions at the gym in between, and maybe some strength training every now and then, you are going to lose weight initially and minimize the amount of body fat that you do have. But what you're not doing is building up your muscle mass, which is what helps your metabolism stay up and changes the shape of your body as well. And also, when you've lost some weight in this manner, you're also more likely to gain it all back and more when you return to your normal way of eating and or training, because your metabolism is suppressed and your body is in the state of survival where it will do everything it can to store all the fuel that comes in your fat stores, because your body doesn't know when it may get into this state of starvation again. It doesn't know that, oh, okay, now she's back to eating enough, so we can just all relax, switch off this stress hormone-driven state of survival and start using energy on muscle building and optimal brain function and reproductive system, get pregnant and so on and so forth. Like, no, it doesn't switch this off so easily, because for all it knows, you might just be having one day of sufficient food intake and then it's back to starvation, so it won't switch this survival mode off that quickly. So you see, our body continually adapts to the new norm in ways that I just described, and we've talked about in great detail in the foundational episodes of this podcast, episode 1 to 7. So what ends up happening is that many people who want to lose weight, that is lose body fat, end up in this vicious cycle of always decreasing their calories and exercising more, and then get some progress, and then the progress stops, so they keep decreasing the calories or increasing the workouts, and either never reach their weight loss goals quite, or they keep losing track. So stop exercising for a time and eat a lot of unhealthy food and lose it for a while because they've been starving, so they gain the weight back on, and then they need to start again, and this just goes on and on and on. Now, in relation to what we've talked about earlier about the body acceptance movement and people normalizing overweight and obesity, I want to talk a bit more about this. So some people don't maybe see the need to lose weight, and some people really don't need to, but we cannot run from the fact that overweight and obesity is increasing to an unprecedented degree now. And so I think there's a real need to talk about this openly without people saying that you're body shaming or anything like that. So just to pull up a few points about why we should want to lose excess body weight, as in body fat, if we have that. And that's the fact that there is a direct correlation between excess body fat and the development of chronic diseases like type 2 diabetes, gallstones, hypertension, heart disease, colon cancer, and then for men, stroke. And what's even more interesting is that even in the upper half of the healthy weight range, which is BMI of, the upper range is from 22 to 24.9, there's also a dose-response relationship between higher BMI and the risk of developing chronic diseases. And then we have known for quite some time now that inflammation is increased in overweight and obesity, and that chronic inflammation is implicated in the development of most, if not all, chronic health conditions. So studies like this one here have shown that by losing weight, it reduces inflammation in our body, and that the greatest improvements in obesity-related inflammatory markers were observed when people achieved a weight loss of at least 10%. So I think that we can all agree on that losing excess weight is a beneficial thing and good for our overall health. But it's not good for our health to do that in an unhealthy way. So why does it seem to be so darn difficult to lose weight? The answer is really related to the reason why we keep getting fatter and unhealthier, why overweight and obesity is increasing so much in the westernized world, along with other chronic diseases. And it's because we're doing this all wrong. In today's society, the ways we go about losing weight are not 100% correct. So many programs that focus on weight loss do have one thing in common, that it focuses on, to some degree, on improving quality of the diet, that is getting rid of the obviously unhealthy processed foods and candy and snacks and soda and all this stuff. But no matter what type of diet you turn to, almost all still contain a lot of processed foods that many don't think are processed food actually, like plant-based milks and plant-based cheese and plant-based meats, some of the most processed food products available, protein bars, ham. I see this a lot of times, a lot of influencers eating ham all the time on their crisp bread, and okay. Some of the diets really encourage the consumption of vegetable oils or seed oils, which does not support your metabolism at all. But the most important thing that almost all diet programs for weight loss get wrong is that they focus on calorie restriction. So in many cases, people are still eating low-quality westernized foods, just in less amount. But even the diets that get a lot of things right in terms of food quality still make the big mistake of restricting the calories. So you're doomed either way to drive your body into a low energy state, to an energy deficient state, instead of an energy abundant state. And this will block cellular energy production, increase stress hormones, lower your metabolism, promote body fat storage, make you feel horrible, and so on and so forth. Now, so many people find this hard to grasp and really don't see how weight loss can be obtained without calorie deficit. But the answer is really quite basic, like we've touched on, and it's about supporting our body's metabolism. Our body's cells' energy production process. We need to support that, and not by driving the stress-driven low energy state up. And the way we do that through diet is with diet quality, improving the quality of our food, and by providing our body's cells with enough food, with enough energy sources, with enough fuel and nutrients to support a healthy, functioning body. I believe that you can well obtain a healthy weight loss and lose all the weight you want if you improve the quality of your diet, get rid of the things that you know aren't good for you, and also educate yourself on these things that you are eating. And if you're open for the possibility that some things in your diet that you may believe are healthy and maybe have always thought of as healthy may not necessarily be good for your health. They may not be very harmful or the most harmful things about your diet, but there's been a lot of things in my diet that I've had to reevaluate and see now that aren't actually supporting my health. And then you can take another step and look at other factors in your life that may be blocking energy production in your body, like low quality sleep, exposure to toxins in everything from food supply, makeup, clothing, cleaning products, etc. Take a look at your micronutrient intake, for example. I believe that if you have this open perspective on your lifestyle and your diet especially, that if you're open to the possibility that some things in your diet or lifestyle may possibly be not so good for your health, that you can easily get into the physical shape that you've always desired. So the answer to the question, how to lose weight without losing your health, is by supporting and improving your metabolism. And how do we do that? Yes, by improving the quality of your diet and not by putting yourself in calorie deficit long term. And to prove my point, I'll show you a few studies on weight loss that show that obtaining weight loss through calorie deficit in whatever form is not effective and not healthy. That's not a healthy way to lose weight. That's how you lose weight and lose your health. So up until now, we've not been very successful in losing weight and especially not in keeping it off. And studies do show this. So one study here with the title, Probability of an Obese Person Attaining Normal Body Weight. This is a cohort study that looked into the electronic health records of thousands of obese individuals, examining the probability of an obese person attaining normal body weight. And it shows that the annual probability of attaining normal body weight was 1 in 210 for men and 1 in 124 for women. So 0.5% approximately for men and 0.8% probability of obese women of attaining normal body weight. That's not a high number. And it's even more difficult for those with morbid obesity. These numbers decrease to 0.08 for men and 0.1% for women. And remember, this is the probability of obese and morbid obese individuals of attaining normal body weight. But the annual probability of achieving some weight loss for those with morbid obesity is a bit higher. That is, a 5% weight reduction is 1 in 8 for men and 1 in 7 for women. And the conclusion here is that the probability for obese individuals to attain normal weight or maintaining weight loss is very low. And that also weight management programs may be ineffective. And yes, they are, because they're all based on calorie deficit in some way, increasing the low energy deficient state of the body that drove people to obesity in the first place. So even though you're restricting the calories, the common weight loss programs end up driving people's bodies to the same stress-driven, low-energy physiological state that got them there in the first place, only through another mechanism. So they lose some weight to begin with, but you end up the same because you're continuing to stress the body in a way that got you into this mess in the first place. And this right here is called weight cycling, also known as yo-yo dieting. That is the repeated loss and gain of weight. And I want to get serious here and talk to you a little bit about this because this is serious. So weight cycling is where we repeatedly lose some weight, gain it back, lose some weight again, gain it back again, and then so on and so forth. And sometimes these weight fluctuations are not that big, actually, only a few kilograms or pounds up and down. But for some people, this may be much higher numbers. But in many cases, people are not weight cycling, quote unquote, on purpose. Many people who are normal weight, overweight, or obese are in a constant state of weight cycling because they're always trying to lose some weight for some time and then they lose control and gain it back and so on and so forth. But some people actually do weight cycling on purpose, like bodybuilders or other athletes that gain weight in order to get bigger and or stronger, and then they cut down before a fitness show or before a competition or before a weigh-in, before a fight, etc. But this is not healthy, you guys. I've done this I don't know how many times, but way too much. Whether it's deliberate or not, weight cycling has been shown to increase the risk of later obesity because the repeated signals to the body that is in a starvation mode programs the body to be better and more efficient to store fat, and it increases the strain on vital organs and promotes also cardiometabolic diseases. And in a systematic review and meta-analysis from 2019, it is reported that body weight fluctuations are associated with higher mortality due to all causes and due to cardiovascular disease and a higher morbidity of cardiovascular disease and hypertension. Another review from 2019 found a correlation between self-reported weight cycling and increased risk of endometrial cancer in women. That is, the more women weight cycle, the likelier they are of getting endometrial cancer. This is not proof of causation, this is just a correlation, but here we have a strong correlation. And then it's the same for kidney cancer. The more weight cycling you do, the more you increase your risk of developing kidney cancer. And this has been shown. And this is independent of BMI, that is, whether you're overweight or not. Weight cycling increases your risk of kidney cancer. And also weight cycling is a strong independent factor of new onset diabetes. And it's also associated with poorer mental health, and so on and so forth. So losing weight with calorie deficit in whatever form and keeping the weight that has been lost in this way off is not effective. It does not work, and it can lead to all sorts of other health conditions and diseases that we do not want to bring upon ourselves. So let's recap why calories in, calories out doesn't work. That is why losing weight with calorie deficiency does not work. So what happens when we go into calorie deficiency? We get, number one, metabolic adaptation. So when we drastically reduce calorie intake and or increase caloric output through exercise, our body perceives it as a threat, a form of starvation, and quickly lowers its metabolic rate to conserve energy. And this has been shown in many studies, such as a landmark study on participants of The Biggest Loser. This study found that their resting metabolic rate significantly decreased even after regaining the weight. Their basal metabolic rate was lower after they had regained the weight than it was before they started their journey, making it harder to maintain the weight loss. So even after they had regained the weight, their metabolism was even lower than it was before they started their weight loss journey. And then we have studies like the Minnesota starvation experiment, which showed that prolonged calorie restriction slows metabolism, reduces energy expenditure, and promotes fat storage. And this has been shown again and again in research. Okay, number two, then we have the hormonal disruption. So calorie restriction alters hormones that regulate hunger, satiety, metabolism, and energy balance, like leptin. Leptin levels drop, increasing hunger and reducing energy expenditure. Levels of ghrelin rise, which promotes appetite. And then the thyroid hormones, T3 and T4 levels decline, and we have less conversion of the inactive T4 to the active form T3, slowing down our metabolism and impairing overall energy production. And this has been shown in for example, a 2010 study published in the New England Journal of Medicine, which demonstrates that these hormonal changes persist even after significant weight loss, which then drives weight regain. And then number three, in addition to all of this, we lose a lot of muscle mass when we are in calorie deficiency. And this reduces overall metabolic rate because muscle tissue is very metabolically active. And when we lose muscle mass, the metabolic activity in our body goes down. And this has been shown in many studies. For example, one study from 2020 in judo athletes showing that rapid weight loss resulted in significant muscle damage. And again, not good for our overall metabolism and our wish to get rid of our extra unwanted body fat. Now, number four, what we also get are physiological and behavioral changes. That is, restrictive diets can lead to increased food preoccupation, which means obsessive thoughts about eating, cravings, and a heightened awareness of hunger cues. And this happens because our body is trying to make us focus more on food to make sure that we go find more food so the body survives. Also, restrictive diets also lead to higher rates of binge eating due to perceived deprivation. and then difficulty adhering to extreme calorie deficits over time, because the body adapts to all of this by slowing metabolism, increasing hunger, and reducing energy levels, making the diet feel unsustainable, or often resulting in abandonment or relapse into previous eating habits. And this has been shown in several studies throughout the years. So number 5, another thing that happens in calorie deficiency is that we may get nutrient deficiencies, because not all calories are equal. You may have heard or thought otherwise, but that's wrong. That's BS. That's not true. So the type, the quality, and bioavailability of different foods significantly affects how energy from the food is produced and used, and it affects hormone signaling and overall metabolic health. And most, probably all, calorie-restrictive diets ignore these nuances. And that leads to nutrient deficiencies, which further destroys our metabolism, our cells' energy production process, and energy use. And then, number 6, we have the dangerous effects of weight cycling on our health. That is, when we repeatedly lose weight through calorie restriction, we often gain it back, or 95% of the time, we gain it back. And doing this again and again, even though in small amounts and even though you're always within normal weight limits, this increases your risk of getting cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, overweight and obesity later in life, and cancer, and increases the risk of overall mortality. And I showed you some studies on this earlier. So, okay, now we've talked in great detail about how not to lose weight. And you might think that this is just impossible, but it isn't. You can lose weight without losing your health. And the way to do that is by optimizing cellular energy production, by supporting mitochondrial function through nutrient-dense, balanced diets, and not by starving your body of fuel or fueling it with toxic things. That is, the key is to boost your body's ability to produce energy efficiently by eating a diet that is rich in nutritious, well-balanced foods that support your cells' energy-producing factories, the mitochondria, the powerhouses of your cells, and not by restricting your calories and or eating the wrong types of foods. And the way to do this is by implementing these steps. And I'll talk in more detail about each step, but first I'll just list them up for you. So, number 1, focus on nutrient-dense foods. Number 2, limit polyunsaturated fatty acids, or PUFAs. Number 3, eat enough calories. Number 4, balance macronutrients. Number 5, support thyroid health. Number 6, focus on strength training and avoid stress-driven exercise or over-exercise. Number 7, prioritize sleep and rest. Number 8, eat regularly. Number 9, hydrate properly. Number 10, support gut health. And then number 11, be patient and consistent. So, step 1, focus on nutrient-dense foods. So prioritize whole, easily digestible, nutrient-rich foods like ripe fruits, honey, maybe some root vegetables, dairy, eggs, and meat like beef, lamb, etc. If you're going to go for chicken or pork, make sure that it's pasture-raised and not fed poor feed like corn and soy, because if they're raised on high PUFA diet like that, the PUFA will accumulate in their fat because these are monogastric animals. They only have one stomach like we do. So these fats accumulate in their body fat, and they will therefore have high PUFA fat, which we do not want. And this also applies to eggs. Try buying eggs from pasture-raised chickens. And then avoid foods that are hard to digest, contain anti-nutrients and or are nutrient poor, like processed foods, seed oils, and foods that contain seed oils, high amounts of raw vegetables, large amounts of grain products, and yes, oats are included in this one. Oats are grains, and I'm sorry, but oats contain a lot of anti-nutrients like phytic acid, lectins, avenine, saponins, and enzyme inhibitors. But anti-nutrients are simply any natural compounds that can interfere with the absorption of certain nutrients or affect our digestion. And I'll do a separate episode on this one day, on a lot of typical foods that we consider healthy but may not be as good for us as we think. That's one reason why I've cut out oatmeal in my diet. Number 2, limit polyunsaturated fatty acids, or PUFAs. This is a really important step. If you're not going to do anything else, at least do this one. So minimize seed oils, or just simply cut them out. Like canola oil, rapeseed oil, soybean oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, palm oil, etc. Because these can impair cellular energy production and promote inflammation and mess with our satiety signals. These do absolutely not support our cells' metabolism. Instead, use saturated fats like butter, ghee, and beef tallow for cooking, or just in general. If you need a lot of oil for cooking, you can use coconut oil. And if you don't want the coconut flavor, then you can use refined coconut oil. It is simply steamed so that it takes away the flavor. Now, do not cook with any other vegetable oils, not olive oil, not any. If you really want to include olive oil in your diet for some reason, then just, put it on your salad or something, then fine. But just make sure it's pure and do not cook with it. And if you don't remember why we shouldn't eat vegetable oils, go back to episode 6 on polyunsaturated fatty acids. And I truly recommend episode 8, the interview with Dr. Chris Kenobi. He goes over this in great detail. Then step 3, eat enough calories. This is another very important point, and maybe one you may find difficult to accept, but just trust me on this and try it out. If you are following the first 2 steps fully, eating enough calories will not be of any problem for you. So avoid severe calorie restriction, which lowers your metabolism, harms mitochondrial function, messes with your hormones, and so on and so forth, like we've talked about in detail up until now. Instead, eat to support your body's energy needs, and that way your body will optimize all its physiological functions and start building up what has been broken down and downregulated. And what's even more important, your body will become much, much more efficient in creating energy from the nutrients that are coming in and in using it, meaning that your metabolism increases and a lot less nutrients will be pushed to storage in fat tissue. I recommend that you check out episode 5 on calories for a deep dive on this. Step 4, balance your macronutrients. Include sufficient protein, 1.6 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight per day, to support muscle retention and repair, and start building up your muscles again to increase your body's metabolism even more. And no, you do not have to be afraid of gaining too much muscle mass, quote unquote, by eating too much protein. Just get that thought out of your head. You will not become too muscular by eating enough protein. I'm not telling you to eat way too much protein. I'm just telling you to eat enough. So again, red meat, pasture-raised pork or chicken, eggs, fish, dairy, yeah. Eat carbohydrates to fuel clean, efficient energy production, like fruits, honey, root vegetables, dairy, because carbs are the preferred energy source for the mitochondria, the energy-producing factories in our cells. Yes, we can use fats to produce energy, and we can survive on a keto diet by creating glucose endogenously, that is in our body from fat cells, but that is driven by a stress-driven low energy state, and we do not want to promote that. So yes, we can use fats to produce energy, but promoting the use of fatty acids for energy production instead of glucose from carbohydrates promotes the same stress hormone-driven state as calorie deficiency, and that does not support mitochondrial health. That does not support our metabolism, our energy production process. So low-carb diets, keto diets, those do not support healthy metabolism. And I'll cover that in more detail in later episodes, but we have talked about this to a large degree in previous episodes. So check them out, especially the blood glucose episodes, if you're really curious here, and also the macronutrient episode. And then don't forget the fats. Use fats to ensure satiety and support hormone production, etc., and get them from healthy sources like butter, dairy, eggs, good quality meat, avocados, etc., and not from vegetable oils. It's often said in regards to fat that we need to be careful not to eat too much fat in order to not overload on calories. And the fact is, if you're getting your fats from good quality sources like I just mentioned, It's very difficult to overload on calories from these foods. But as soon as you include a lot of nuts, seeds, and oils and foods that contain seed oils, then you're able to ingest a lot more calories than necessary and overeat on calories. Because too much PFAS in our diets messes with our energy production process, making it less efficient, making our body interpret that as a lack of energy, turning up our hunger signals, and making us able to eat more amounts of food. And yeah, check out episode 4 on macronutrients for more details here. Step 5, support thyroid health. So avoid stressors like calorie restriction, extreme macronutrient restriction like keto diets, or extreme low-fat diets for that matter, excessive fasting, over-exercising, poor sleep, etc. So make sure you're getting enough micronutrients as well, such as thyroid-supporting nutrients like iodine. You can get them through iodized salt. Selenium, you find that in seafood and eggs. And then vitamin A, you find that in liver and butter. And one day we'll do a thyroid-specific episode in regards to health, so stay tuned for that. Step 6, focus on strength training and avoid stress-driven exercise or over-exercising. So I'd say strength train at least 2 times, maybe 3 times per week to maintain and or build muscle mass. And don't do excessive cardio. I'd rather do HIITs or high-intensity interval training. Also much more effective, takes a shorter amount of time. And it's better for your metabolism, for that matter. So focus on moderate intensity restorative exercise like walking and swimming or yoga to avoid overloading the stress system, along with the strength training. So bottom line in regards to training, no matter what kind of exercise you want to engage in, just don't over-exercise at least. That will simply up the stress hormone-driven state, which, as you remember, slows our metabolism, promotes body fat storage, increases the chances of health problems and diseases, and etc. Now, step 7, prioritize sleep and rest. Aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep per night to support your metabolism and repair. And then manage your stress through mindfulness, breathing exercises or hobbies to lower your cortisol levels and also cut down on your tasks. It's so common nowadays to have way too much on our plate, and it's not good in the long run. Be ruthless and just say no to any extra tasks that you feel that your gut tells you not to take on. Be selfish. It's okay. Now, step 8, eat regularly. So this is quite an important point as well, and I underestimated this. I've done that for years. So avoid prolonged fasting or skipping meals, which can lower blood sugar and increase stress hormones, the stress-driven low energy state, the energy deficient state. This increases the stress-driven catabolic state of metabolism and works against us. I used to be a fan of intermittent fasting for years. I did it for years on end, but I am not a fan anymore, and this is why. And we'll do a separate episode on fasting later. I would opt for 3 to 4 balanced meals per day to stabilize our energy levels, and then maybe even some small snacks in between if you need, like a couple of dates and a glass of milk, or an apple and a slice of cheese, etc. So if the snack contains some good, fast digestible carbohydrates, like dates or apple or some fruit, together with a little fat and protein, it will keep you going very smoothly until your next meal without having to eat a big portion of it. So for me, I like to have like an in-between meal of 3 dates and a glass of milk, or 3 dates and a slice of cheese, or an apple and a glass of milk. So to balance this out. But because if you only eat, for example, the dates alone or the apple alone, it will give you a rise in blood glucose quite fast, and then it will fall again quite quickly. So then you may become hungry relatively fast again. And then also if you only eat the slice of cheese, it may not help you a lot because it doesn't cause a rise in blood glucose levels, and actually only a small drop in blood glucose later from the protein in the cheese. And I talked about this in great detail in the blood glucose episodes, but also in the calorie and macronutrient episodes, so check them out. Step 9, hydrate properly. Drink plenty of water, and not only water, consume also electrolytes, for example, in salt, potassium from fruits or coconut water to support hydration and metabolism. And then limit diuretics like caffeine if it causes dehydration or stress. And again, we'll do a separate episode on hydration later. Step 10, support your gut health. This is a big factor. Eat according to how your digestive system is designed, period. Don't eat for political reasons or any other reason at all that is not aligned with how our digestive system is designed. So include easily digestible fibers like cooked carrots or peeled fruits to support gut health without overloading on fermentable fibers, and avoid excess starches, which are complex carbohydrates, and carbohydrate-rich foods that contain anti-nutrients. Avoid those, and hard to digest fibers that promote gas and bloating. You can check out episode 7 on gut health for more information on this. And then last but not least, step 11, be patient and consistent. Weight loss takes time, so avoid extreme or unsustainable methods and focus on building a lifestyle that supports both your health and long-term goals. So just bottom line, the key to healthy weight loss lies in supporting energy production at the cellular level. That way you can lose weight without losing your health. When your cells can efficiently produce energy, your hormones stay balanced, your metabolism works for you, not against you, and excess fat storage is reduced because your body prioritizes energy use for vital processes instead of energy conservation. So focus on avoiding what blocks energy production, like PUFAs, extreme stress, too little sleep, over-exercising, stressing, nutrient deficiencies, etc., and promote what supports it in the first place, like whole foods, enough food, proper sleep, stress management, etc. So yes, I do believe that we can lose weight without losing our health. I hope this episode helps. Let me know in the comments on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen, and feel free to ask me any questions there. I will always try to answer them. Take care of your body. You only got this one. Thanks for tuning into this episode. If you're looking for more information or want to check out any studies I reference, head on to my website, babyletsmove.com. You can also join me for a workout through my app called Baby Let's Move, available in both App Store and Google Play. And don't forget to connect with me on Instagram and YouTube for even more content. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider giving it a 5-star rating or a like and share it with a friend. It really helps me reach more amazing listeners like you. Until next time, keep moving and stay healthy.